Alrighty, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I know I haven't posted a lot of videos in a while. Let me explain that real quick. As you can see, I'm holding my mic right now. I had an arm stand. It broke, like literally just broke off. So I'm sorry if I moved the mic away from my mouth like that. I have to hold my mic. I've had to hold my mic when I've recorded my podcast episodes, and I haven't recorded a YouTube video because simply, I can't play anything. Like I could drop the mic down. I don't know how this audio is going to sound. I don't know if this is the best idea. But for a video like this, I realized that I could hold the mic and get this done with. And when I say a video like this, you guys already clicked on it. You guys know what you're watching. I am rating followers fantasy teams. And as you can see, I got my TikTok pulled up here. Most of you are probably coming from my TikTok. If you don't know, I post a lot on there, short form content. So go ahead and follow me at FLORESS911 on the road to 10K followers. Hopefully by the start of next season, we'll get there. And I had a series going. As you can see, there was a 15-part series where I would rate followers fantasy teams. So they would send me their team on Instagram or on TikTok, and I would go through and rate it in about 2 minutes and provide them with insight that I believe could help them and benefit them. And I'm pretty proud of what I've put together in these 14 episodes. The only problem is a couple of them really popped off. Like I got 6,000, 10,000 views, and a lot of people also wanted their team to be featured on a video. Who wouldn't? Everybody wants another person's opinion. I say this all the time. Whether you take my advice or not, sometimes it just helps to hear someone else say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you're stuck between two options. You don't know what to do. But by hearing someone say one option, it can sometimes help you realize that you really wanted them to say the other option, and therefore you go with the other option. So you don't have to take my advice, but what I hope is that my advice helps you get to that final destination. That being said, putting away the TikTok now, going over to Instagram, okay, those are my friends, kind of. But like I was saying, I got like 20 plus requests on Instagram, not even counting the ones on TikTok. And at that point, I just can't keep up. I don't want to turn my TikTok page to solely these videos. I got other videos I like to put out, and I don't want to just put out 20, 40 of these on TikTok. So I decided the best idea would be to pick up the mic again, sit down on the desktop, and put together a long form YouTube video. It's more easier to digest. It's one large video. It's not on the TikTok platform. Maybe drive traffic over here to the YouTube channel. Hopefully I can get a new arm and I can start, uploading more here. I've also just been really busy. This is my final semester, so big ups for that. Pretty busy. But like I said, we're going to get into this now. And I got 20 plus to get through. We'll see how many I can get to. So without further ado, let's start with the person that replied to me first. I got a couple people here I'm still waiting to hear from. But Trevor Woods, congratulations. You will be the first person. Let's see what he said. 12-man full PPR, and we are on Yahoo. So, we always got interesting leagues out there over there on Yahoo. So, Trevor's standout league. So, you might even be the commish of this league. Hopefully, there's no commish curse or commish collusion. You don't want any of those double C's. Okay, so right off the bat, in a 12-team league, full PPR, you like what you see out of the running back situation. Running backs we know are very scarce in the NFL right now. Tony Pollard and Ramondre. You also got AJ Brown, so you're thinking maybe first round pick, second round pick, third round pick here. And you know what? Those are very solid picks. Ramondre has definitely disappointed so far. This is an updated screenshot here because the Patriots do play the Raiders this week. So this is as up to date as it gets with this screenshot here. Like I said, Ramondre, he should be able to turn it around. His worst weeks should be behind him. You have to think that the Patriots are going to find a way to turn it around and not get blown out by 30 points every single week. So I wouldn't be too scared about Ramondre. Tony Pollard has had a couple bad weeks, but it's Tony Pollard, especially Monday night against the Chargers. Expect a big get-back game. And then A.J. Brown, he's just a solid piece. He's boom or bust at times, kind of very volatile as a player, but you're definitely going to take that when you know he can put up that 25, 30-point performance week in, week out. Devon Achane, he was great for 2-3 weeks. Hopefully got a couple of wins out of him. Looks like he's going to be gone for about a month now. Let's look at his bench, see what he has working with. JSN has been a big disappointment. And this is what happens, right, with the fantasy community, is that they just love the young, shiny players, right? JSN was getting drafted before Tyler Lockett, and I couldn't understand for the life of me why that was happening. People just like the new toys. They like thinking that they are prime NFL scouts and they know what they're doing. I'm not saying that's what you did with picking him. I don't know when you got him in the draft, but just totally hasn't panned out. But the problem is with having a guy like JSN. What am I, the freaking Looney Tunes? Excuse me. You see in TikTok, I'm able to kind of cut that out. We'll see how much effort I want to put into editing these YouTube videos. Probably not a lot. Just going to chop these up and throw them out there for y'all. But the problem I was saying with JSN is like, he's the type of player that you can't drop, right? You're not going to drop JSN. So now you just kind of have him stuck as your like permanent bench player until maybe he decides to pop it off in the last half of the season. The bench, there's not too much to be excited for. You got a couple of quarterbacks here. You know, it's a Hail Mary play with Kyler Murray. Anthony Richardson looking like he could be out for a month as well. But you got Tua, so that's fine. So you really don't need 2-3 quarterbacks on this team. Jake Ferguson, that's a good backup tight end play. But when you have TJ Hawkinson, I would have looked to maybe trade Jake Ferguson, right? Do you have any Cowboy fans in your league? If not, do you have anybody that's desperate for a tight end? Jake Ferguson, there's definitely worse options out there. So I definitely try to move him because there's no world we're going to be like not having TJ Hawkinson as your starter, and it's not worth to have Jake Ferguson just for 1 week, right? And especially now with Justin Jefferson going on IR, he's also going to be missing a month. TJ Hawkinson's only going to skyrocket, so you're pretty solid there. As we go for your wide receivers, Zay Flowers, and then on your bench, okay, this is the problem with the team. Okay, I don't know why I didn't address this sooner. I guess I didn't see it. You actually have great running backs, right? Tank Bigsby, he's a good stash option. Roschon Johnson should get a lot more work now that Khalil Herbert's probably also going to be out for a month. That's the theme of this week, right? A lot of players out for a month nowadays. So Roschon could be a good play. The problem is A.J. Brown and Zay as your only startable receivers is a problem. But it's okay because this is what you do. You trade Anthony Richardson for a buy low wide receiver option. Anything that's going to be playable. You could package him with Jake Ferguson and get anything that's going to be playable. Something like that. Maybe even package in Tank Bigsby. Throw one of these guys on IR because, you know, A-Chain's going to go on IR. Throw him on IR. Pick up another wide receiver option. I have NFL Fantasy pulled up right here, so I'm going to look for some options for you. This might be where I do a cut so I can actually look first. You know, some good trade options, right? Like Tutu Atwell. That I'm pretty sure you could buy him for the low. Maybe try to get Tutu. Tank Dell would also be an option there. Everybody else on this page I think would probably be too expensive. Tutu and Tank Dell, Jacoby Myers, I feel like are great buy options for this team. Another player they could probably buy low on. Looking around here, trying to find a good option for you. Drake London kind of scares me. I don't know if you want to buy low on him. Courtland Sutton is a desperate option if you needed one. But honestly, I would try to focus in on those first three that I said. Tutu, Tank, and even Jacoby Myers if you could. Try to get those players on your team with the pieces you have. Maybe move a running back as well as Jake Ferguson. This team is very well rounded. For a 12-team league on Yahoo, you got to like the team. When you have good running backs to pair up with a solid tight end and a solid quarterback, the receivers will come. Receivers are easy to find. You can buy them by the dozen in fantasy. So you have the hard part figured out with this team. I think it's a solid team, easily going to make the playoffs. What do you guys think about this team? That's what I would say if it's a TikTok video, right? I'd be like, comment what you think. Come back next time. But it's a YouTube video. So we're going to move on. Trevor Woods, I hope you appreciate that. Let me know, how this team turns out if you end up doing any of the advice that I gave you. Moving on to Grant. What up, Grant? Oh, use the latest app. Use the latest version of the app to see this message. While I'm on desktop. Uh-oh. That's okay. You know what, Grant? You're going to get a TikTok video. So congratulations, Grant. You're getting yourself a TikTok video. We'll move on to Zach Hill. Oh, what the shit? Don't tell me this is for everything. What the balls? Okay, this guy sent me a photo. Zach Hill. Okay, so Zach Hill and Grant, for some reason, won't let me see. Fernando, he sent me a link. That should be fine. Joe is good. Oh, man. What is up with this? Use the latest version of this app. That's a bummer. Okay, give me a second to figure this out. Okay, so the verdict is I'm just going to do the ones that I can see right now on the desktop. And then if time permits, I'll just take the teams on my phone, email it to myself on the desktop, and then I'll be able to look at it there. But that kind of sucks. I think the problem is that for these ones, they sent me two pictures that kind of overlap on each other instead of sending me one picture at a time. And for some reason, the desktop don't like that. So okay, so what do we know about this team? Fan of the TikToks. First time, this is my first team. Someone in the league wants ETN or Montgomery and DK for Devontae Adams. ETN, okay, well, let's look at the makeup of his team because it all depends on the makeup. So he's 2-3-0. Goffenheimer. I'm getting a call from Bryan, Texas. Gotta love it. Okay, so let's go through the team. I don't know how many teams are in here, but that's fine. Jamal Williams on the bench. We have David Montgomery and ETN went nuclear this week. Dallas Goedert, right? T. Higgins, DK, and on the bench, Mike Evans. Okay, Tyler Lockett as well. And what was the trade? The trade was one of the running backs and DK for Devontae. One of the running backs would leave you with just Brees. Yeah, see, that's the problem. You have a lot of receivers. You have a lot of good receivers. And I know Davante Adams is intriguing, but let's say you give up David Montgomery, right? Now you just have Travis Etienne and Breece Hall. Breece Hall, who has struggled with injuries. Travis Etienne has also struggled with injuries in the past. I'm not saying he's injury prone by any means necessary, but what I am saying is that only having literally two running backs on your roster is never a good idea. Having three, especially when the three is Breece, Travis, and David Montgomery, that's so ideal to have three running backs like that you could rotate in at any means necessary. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to start all three of them every single week, but you definitely can if you wanted to pair up with DK, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Tyler Lockett. The only problem is you do have two Seahawks receivers, so I see that's maybe why you want to move on from DK. But if I'm moving on from DK, if I'm moving on from Tyler Lockett, I personally am not packaging a running back with it. Running backs are so valuable. I'll say it again, and I'll never stop saying it. And the fact that you only have three and all three of them are quality, you got to cling on to them for dear life. You cannot get rid of them. Jordan Love and Jared Goff, they're very good quarterbacks that could plug and play on every single week. You kind of play the matchups between the two. Like this week, hopefully you play Jared Goff. Next week, you might want to play Jordan Love. That's just how it's going to go with these guys. You also got Mike Evans. Like, it's a surplus of riches at the wide receiver position. So here's what I would say to you. This trade, don't do it, right? Don't do the trade. Instead, try to package some receivers, right? Like Lockett and Higgins, or Metcalf and Tony, right? Something like that. Package some receivers to get yourself a different running back. You don't need more receivers, bro. You don't need an upgrade at receiver. You don't need Davante Adams. You got DK. You got Mike Evans. You got Lockett. You got Higgins, right? You're going to be fine with these running backs and a good tight end. A good defense as well, even though they kind of pissed the bed there. You don't need another receiver in the mix. What you need is another running back. Let's look at running back options that you could potentially trade for with a package of like Higgins and Lockett, right? Like, what could Higgins and Lockett get you, right? If we were being hypothetical here, Higgins and Lockett, that could get you like, man, the running backs are so god awful. Could it get you a Ken Walker? Probably not. Maybe could get you a James Cook after a bad week you buy low. Possibly a Joe Mixon. I'm not really a fan of Joe Mixon, but he's an option. Brian Robinson, maybe. Maybe if you want to believe in one of these two guys. We're talking Dameon Pierce and Rachaad White. I personally don't like them. But any other able body would be nice for this team, because you only got three running backs on the roster. A fourth would not help, or a fourth would help. What I'm saying is, wide receiver wise, you do have a lot of good options here. You definitely don't need Davante Adams by any sense of the word. I think it's a good team, right? You don't have top end talent, but you have talent that has panned out, right? Like, what was your first round pick? I don't know, right? What was your first round pick? Breece Hall? No, that's like a second, third round pick. I don't know exactly where your picks have gone. It seems like maybe you did a lot of trades. Hopefully you didn't get taken advantage of. You are saying this is your first team ever, probably. But your team is fine. Like, Travis Etienne's a solid option. Should be a high-end running back 2 or 1. Same with David Montgomery. And then you have solid wide receiver pieces to surround your team with. This team is definitely fighting for a playoff spot, but you might want to try to buy some high-end talent if you want to push for a title this year. Definitely like this team. Next up, we got Joe. What up, Joe? Okay, so he doesn't provide any details on the team. That's fine. We're just going to grade it at face value. This is ESPN, right? This looks like ESPN, just zoomed in and in the light version. Nothing wrong, light or dark. Okay. Mahomes, Pacheco, Williams, Chase, Dell, Cook. Okay. Wide receivers are weak, running backs are weak. So what went wrong? Okay, DK on bye. Jahmyr Gibbs, that's the big issue. Okay, Zach Wilson on the bench is an interesting choice. So this team is definitely, I mean, is it sufficing? Because you got Mahomes, who's going to be okay. Pacheco has had good games. Kyron has had a great start, right? Tank Dell has had good games when Jamar Chase has had bad games. And then Jamar Chase went nuclear this week, so maybe you won. James Cook has been all right. Jake Ferguson has been all right. So, like, you look at this team. If this was a team that you looked at the start of the season, you'd be like, what the like, this team is wow. This team is very bad. But you look at you look at this team, right, with the context of 5 weeks played, and you're like, I don't know if this team is good or not, right? Like, you definitely maybe need help at wide receiver and running back, But do you, right? Pacheco, Williams, and Cook, you could potentially ride that out for the rest of the season and be okay. Especially when you have Jahmyr Gibbs on the bench, who, you know, you could play on a given week if you're in a pinch. So, like, you have 4 decent running backs, and that's crazy to say because they are who they are. This is a tough team to give advice on, if we're being honest. Jamar Chase, he should be fine the rest of the year. Tank Dell, I mean, you got DK, you got Addison, who's going to be a good play. So, really, I don't know. Like, this is a tough team. What advice do you give? I mean, step 1, get rid of Zach Wilson, right? Pick up somebody else. Kenneth Gainwell can go. Tyler Higbee could probably go. Get rid of those players and pick up some more valuable assets that you can kind of stash. And then maybe the advice I could give you would be to sell high on Kyren Williams. I think that's probably the best advice I'll give you. You know, Cooper Kupp is back, so that's definitely going to take away value from Kyren. Not to mention, Kyren Williams has gotten like, what, 5 touchdowns in the first 5 weeks, maybe even more. So that's definitely not sustainable. This might be the most valuable Kyren Williams will be. So I think the best value I could give you, best advice, would be to sell high on Kyren to get somebody more sustainable at the running back position to pair up with Pacheco and Cooks. And then you still have Gibbs, and you could cross your fingers that long term that ends up working out. But I mean, that was probably your 2nd round pick, and that's probably you know, bitten you in the ass a little bit. But that's okay because the team overall, looks decent, right? Pacheco was a late round running back that panned out. Cook, a late round running back that panned out. And then you also picked up Kyren Williams. And when you have hits like that and you're a waiver wire warrior and you're able to get that top waiver wire ad, I mean, that sets your running back room for success. In that case, your first running back you took to be your RB1 can be the guy that rides your bench if he doesn't pan out and your team's not a total disaster. So this is a masterclass on really a good draft and drafting late and drafting quality players. DK's going to be fine. You know, he's that type of player that he might be touchdown dependent. But as a wide receiver too, it's a good option with Jamar Chase, who's looking to get things around. Tank Dell is a good spot start. Jordan Addison's only going to get better. Tutu Atwell looks like a player you can maybe play in a pinch. So like I said, there's really not that many notes for this team. Really like the team overall, Joe. Good job. Alrighty, next team here is going to be from my guy, Kobe. What up, Kobe? Told me to rate his team. Didn't send any information, but we know it's on Sleeper, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. Right, we got Kirk Cousins, Tony Pollard, Aaron Jones, Devontae, and Jacoby. So double rated receivers there to go along with TJ Hawkinson. Who's you got as flex? You guys might not be able to see this as well, but it's Amari Cooper and Tyler Lockett, okay? Also has Montgomery on his bench and Jordan Addison on his bench. Everybody else on his bench is buns. But Montgomery and Addison on the bench, also Tyler Lockett and Amari Cooper, right? So when you put in that, when you factor that in, Tyler Lockett and Amari Cooper with Jacoby Myers, you got Tony Pollard, Aaron Jones, and David Montgomery. Those are your only running backs on the team, all right? So you got 3 good running backs. Tony Pollard has had a couple down weeks. Aaron Jones has been injured ever since a monster week 1. And then wide receiver-wise, you got Devontae, Jacoby, Cooper, and Lockett. So you got 4 good, 5 if you count Addison, good running receivers. So this is a league where you're starting, right, 2 flexes, right? You got 2 receiver, 2 running back, and then 2 flexes. And that's kind of all you got, right? Because Jacoby Myers could hit the bench in favor of David Montgomery sliding in. And you also have Aaron Jones, who could hit the bench on being injured. David Montgomery could slide in. Also Jordan Addison if you want to plug and play both of them, especially when you have injuries coming up. So this team is just good enough to get by. Doesn't really have any depth, and you can't really blame them. I mean, you have a little bit of depth with Jacoby Myers there. Marvin Mims maybe on a pinch. Jordan Addison as well, but he, like I said, he's a player that could actually end up being in your lineup. So you really have no margin for error here. Like when injury happens and Aaron Jones goes down, that's kind of the limit. You can't really handle any more injuries. Justin Jefferson got hurt, and you have all the other Vikings on your team. So you're going to benefit from that until Justin Jefferson ends up coming back. Kirk Cousins, that's a solid play. Tony Pollard, no notes, even though he's had a couple of down weeks. Devontae and TJ Hawkinson. So you really have all the pieces here of a good team. Pair that up with David Montgomery and Jordan Addison off your bench. Those are quality assets. And this is another team where it's hard to really say what to do, right? Because you can't really sell any players because you need them all. Because this is a league where you have 2 flex players starting. You can't really sell anybody, right? You don't want to sell David Montgomery because now who are your options? Just Pollard and Jones. So Montgomery has to stay, Jones has to stay, Pollard has to stay. Then Jordan Addison, could you sell high on him? Maybe, but then you're starting double Raiders every single week. And is that something you want to do? Not ideally. Ideally, you want maybe Myers to hit your bench, and you only want to play Myers in a pinch when you got these players on bye weeks, right? Cooper, Lockett, who's just on bye, and then Amari Cooper, who was just on bye. So you maybe were in a tough spot, but luckily, that's why you have Montgomery and Addison. That's what I said. You plug and play those players when you got byes. So you really have no margin for error, you have no margin for injury, you have no margin to even trade any players, so it's hard to give you any advice. You're kind of stuck with this team unless you want to buy low on somebody ridiculous, but you really don't want to do that 5 weeks into the season when you have the team that you have, if you catch my drift. Because if injury happens, I mean, this team is in a rough spot. I like the team though. Like, you have the players that are going to be able to take you to the promised land. Devontae Adams, T.J. Hockenson, Kirk, those are going to be players that can take you to the promised land. You have that late round pickup of, David Montgomery to pair up with these running backs. Obviously, you'd like to get another running back in the mix here, but you really don't have anything you can give up, right? You don't want to give up any of your wide receivers because then you're stuck with Addison. The only thing I could say here is if you wanted to be risky, if you wanted to play on the edge, I would trade away maybe Amari Cooper, or I would trade away maybe Tyler Lockett for another running back. So that way you have 4 running backs. 4 running backs makes a great difference than just having 3, because you could sustain injury, and you know injuries are going to happen week in, week out. You already had one with Aaron Jones. David Montgomery already missed a week, right? Tony Pollard has had down weeks. So getting another running back wouldn't be the worst thing. The only thing is, if you trade away Cooper and Lockett, that means you are starting Jordan Addison every week. And that might be fine now, because Justin Jefferson, he's hitting the IR for 4 weeks, but that would mean you are starting 3 Vikings every single week. And then after a month has passed and Justin Jefferson hopefully comes back, now you're starting 3 Vikings every week, and none of them are Justin Jefferson. So that is a risky play. If you need wins now, I would maybe look to do something like that. But like I said, that's the only advice I could give you, because this team is kind of set in stone with the settings that this league has, the roster construction of the team. There's not much wiggle room you have. That's the only advice I would give you. It is a nice team. I definitely think it would fight for a lower seed in the playoffs come playoff time. If the team stays healthy and you get a little bit of luck, you could definitely make a run. But a couple of injuries to this team, and you might be looking forward to 2024. Good job, Kobe. All right, so Josh is coming with me with a big ask, right? He's saying, can I help him win more fantasy matches? I don't know if I could do that, but I could try my best to give you some good advice. He sent me this screenshot a little while ago, so his team might have changed, but I'll do my best to address what we have right now. I don't know how many people are in this league, but it's on ESPN. We got to assume it's PPR. Couple of Cowboys, couple of Jags, right? Etienne and Ridley, Pollard and Lamb, but Burrow as your quarterback. Also got A-Chain, Goff, Ayuk. Okay, so let's look at this team and see what we like and what we don't like. Waddle and Lamb, Etienne and Pollard. Strong 4. Also got Ridley. Thinking maybe it's a 10-man league. Sam Laporta, you got the tight end of the freaking year. Joe Burrow. This is a good team, right? You also got Brandon Ayuk, Devon A-Chain, who was nice. You benched him for this game. Hopefully you started him in the last couple of weeks. Of course, you can't going forward. Jared Goff, Brandon Ayuk as well. Tyler Algier you could probably let go of. So, Team Joshka, right? How can I help this team? Pollard and Lamb. And you see there's a problem there, right? This talking about week 5, right? We were just past week 5, yeah. It's an ideal situation to talk about this team, because you have Dallas and you have Jaguars, right? Jacksonville had a great game, right? They had a great game, they won. What does that mean? Etienne and Ridley did good. Good for your fantasy team. Dallas, right? Pollard and Lamb had a horrible game in real life. What does that mean for your fantasy team? Pollard and Lamb shit the bed. That's the problem when you have multiple players on the same team. You're kind of dependent. You kind of live and die by how good that team does, right? If you have one player on a team, you know, that team could have a bad day, but that player could be good. That can happen sometimes, but the likelihood of that happening decreases when you have more players on the same team, because chances are not everybody can have a good game and the team be bad. You know what I'm saying? So the chances of that happening and coinciding goes down when you have multiple players on the same team. And then you just multiply that, you know, it duplicates when you have the same thing going on with two teams, in this case Jaguars and Cowboys. So you're kind of living and dying by those two teams. So what I would do is I would try to parlay ETN's good week and sell him, or maybe Calvin Ridley's good week and sell him. Get rid of one of these Jaguars, because if I had to choose one team to cling on to, it would be the Cowboys. So I would try to get rid of ETN or try to get rid of Ridley. Keep Pollard, keep Lamb if you have to. Maybe trade one of each and go for some super splash trade. I wouldn't recommend it though. Going to the bench, A-Chain you're going to have to bench now. Algier you could get rid of. Bourne you can get rid of. And then Brandon Ayuk. Okay, so you have a decent wide receiver on your bench here. So I would definitely try to move on from Ridley and maybe get you another running back option, right? Because now with A-Chain gone, that's definitely what I would probably aim on doing. Waddle, better days are ahead for him. You also got Lamb as well, so nothing to worry about there. These two running backs are super solid. I like them. Definitely Ridley would be the odd man out for me, especially when you have Brandon Ayuk that you could slide in there. That's definitely the advice I'm giving this team. It's a solid team that has good options, great talent all around. I have to imagine it's a 10-team league. If it's a 12-team league, you definitely smash it out of the park. This team, like I said for most, I think this team could very comfortably end up making the playoffs. You're 1-2 when you sent me this. Hopefully you're 3-2 now, if not 2-3. Hopefully, God, if you're 1-4, I don't know how that ended up happening. You must have had the horrible luck of a bad schedule of playing the highest scorer every week. Hopefully that didn't happen. But I definitely see good futures for this team. But let me give you some trade targets for Calvin Ridley. Who would I propose a trade for Calvin Ridley for? Right? You want to try to buy low on somebody. Maybe if you could buy low, Kyren's probably out of the conversation. Maybe a DeAndre Swift. I would just send the offer out there, right? DeAndre Swift, and you could pair up. I could probably get rid of that tab, right? That was an old players team. You could pair up Ridley with, get out of here. Ridley with Algier if you want to spice it up just a little bit. But really, the trade is just going to be for Ridley straight up. Pacheco and Robinson wouldn't be bad options. Maybe Joe Mixon. If you could get Breece Hall on the low for a team that's desperate for wide receiver play, that would be a smash hit. And then the same with these two down here at the bottom. Kind of the same targets I gave for a guy earlier in this video. But those are the guys that I think you could probably buy right now. Like you probably, maybe Derrick Henry as well. Actually, I just saw that. I wasn't looking at him. But Derrick Henry would be a great buy low option if you want to buy low on him. But you're definitely not going to get like a David Montgomery. Josh Jacobs will be hard, right? Travis Etienne you have. These guys up top, it's going to be tough to trade for guys like these. So those are the options if you wanted to. That's the only thing I would do. So that way, you're not solely dependent on how good the Jaguars and Cowboys do every single week. You still have the dependency with the Cowboys, but you're not going to blow up this team. It's the heart of your team. That's probably your first and second round picks respectively, right? Actually, you probably made a trade because you also got Waddle, but like I said, it's also a 10-team league probably, so the drafts are a little bit different than a 12-man, so I might be wrong there. But what I'm saying is you don't want to be totally dependent on these two teams. Moving on from Ridley would be a good option for you, Josh. Hopefully that helped, and hopefully I can win you more fantasy matches with that advice. Take it or leave it. Next team by a guy with 3 names, Michael James Noyd. All right. 12-team PPR and sleeper, Michael James Noyd. Let's get into it. It's small, so you guys might not be able to see, but you got Derrick Henry on the bench. It's a 12-team league. Why is Derrick Henry on the bench? Because you got Kyren Williams, and Kyren Williams is the waiver wire ad of the century. So that's why. Still don't know if I agree with benching Derrick Henry. What week was this? Against... Fuck, I can't even tell. The text is so small. So you know what? We won't even worry about that. Let's just grade the team, right? 12-team PPR and sleeper. Lamar is your QB. Lamb, Brown, Cooper to go along with... That's it. So those are your receivers, Lamb, Brown, and Cooper. Okay, so we definitely know what we're going to do here. And right now, you're in a good spot because you have Alexander Mattison, you have Derrick Henry, you have Isaiah Pacheco, and you have Kyren Williams. You have 4 star-studded running backs. Obviously, Alexander Mattison is kind of disappointed, but they're 4 starters. You can't ask for anything better in this league, right? You can't ask for anything better in a 12-man. Lamb, Brown, and Cooper, they're your running backs. You also have Sam Laporta and Darren Waller. Okay, this team has the makings to win it all. It has the makings to win it all. You just have to make the right trades, my friend. Kyren, you might want to sell high on. It might be time to sell high on Kyren. I would move on from Kyren, and I would pair him up with Darren Waller or Sam Laporta. Pair Kyren Williams up with Sam Laporta or Darren Waller, and then you still have Pacheco, Henry, and Madison. Right? and then you have Lamb, Brown, and Cooper, and now you go out there and you get yourself a star. You parlay Kyren and Waller into a superstar, and I'm talking like, go get yourself like Cooper Kupp, right? Demand Cooper Kupp, demand Devontae Adams, demand Keenan Allen, right? Running back wise, you probably can't get McCaffrey, right? But demand, fuck, the running backs are so god awful this year. Wow, what running backs would you get? I think what you're gonna have to do is look at your team and like go to the Keenan Allen manager, go to the Adams manager, right? Go to, what was the other person I said? The Cooper Kupp manager. You can't see him because he hasn't played yet, right? Go to those managers and demand that player plus one of their low-end running backs. So maybe they also have Rachaad White, or maybe they have Dameon Pierce, or maybe they have, as I go to the next page, maybe they have Miles Sanders or Jahmyr Gibbs, or maybe you could buy Najee on the low, or maybe even Aaron Jones on the low, right? Get a low-end running back. Ramondre Stevenson will also be a great ad, right? If there's a team in your league that has Ramondre Stevenson, but also has like Keenan or Kupp or Devontae or somebody like that. Do you have Lamb? Okay, I was going to say or Lamb, but you already have Lamb. If you have a player like that in your league that has those type of combinations of players, I would parlay Kyren and Waller into a star receiver, and then a low-end running back too with high-end potential running back, right? Because then you have Pacheco, you have Henry, you have Madison. You feel comfortable there. With those three, you can get a start out of them. You could get 2 to start every single week. So get, another rotational piece that you can throw in there, like a Stevenson, maybe a low-end Aaron Jones, Rachaad White, even Javonte Williams wouldn't be a bad shout. Somebody like that. But make sure you get yourself Kupp, Adams, AJ Brown. Who's the other people I said? One of those, maybe even Jamar Chase. He's had one good week. Could you parlay that with, Kyren Williams and Waller? Have high hopes and demand that. You're in a good spot here. Like I'm saying, if you could pull together a clutch trade using an extra tight end and using one of your running backs to give yourself another star receiver on this team, because Cooper and Brown, they're good, not great, and Lamb, he's had his off weeks. You need another receiver in here to be a true alpha in this room to pair up with the rest of your team, and I promise you, not only will you make the playoffs, but you will push for a championship team. And I really think, you could put together some good moves here, Michael James Noyd. I hope you take the advice, man. All right, last one for this video. Okay, someone just sent me something. Damn. Oh, yeah, this is Josh. No way, Josh just sent me an update. This is crazy. Josh, little do you know that like 2 teams ago, I was just talking about your team. Let's see the update real quick on Josh. Okay, so this was the team that he had the Jaguars and the Cowboys, and I told him to move on from Ridley. Let's see where he's at now. Still has both Jags and both Cowboys. The team kind of looks similar. Nothing really changed, except he has Breece Hall and Zay Flowers now. Where did that come from? Am I missing something? Joe Burrow, Tony Pollard, Sam Laporta, blah, blah, blah. Where did Breece Hall and Breece Hall and Zay Flowers come from? Pollard, Etienne, Lamb, Waddle, Ridley. Pollard, Etienne, Lamb, Waddle, Ridley. Maybe were they cut off? Were they cut off on this original screenshot here? And they were just down here, Breece and Zay Flowers? If so, that's unreal. Josh, I'm not going to redo the team here. I mean, your team only got better now that Breece Hall and Zay Flowers is here. So, I mean, what did I tell you? I told you to trade Ridley first, and I gave you some options. I mean, still do that. Still do that. But maybe trade for more of a wide receiver option since you also have Breece, right? Pollard, Etienne to go along with Breece. You definitely don't need more running back help anymore. With Zay Flowers, I would just get rid of Ridley. Just get rid of Ridley to give your team more versatility, to give your team more, chances to win week in, week out, not having too many stacks here. But, good for you, Josh. We're going to move on, though, to the last one of the day, which is going to be Jagger. He sent me his bench in the video, but y'all don't got to worry about the bench, man. It got to, like, Latavius Murray, Jerome Ford, Joshua Kelly, MVS, Sky Moore. Not good options here. So the Avengers, right? Jagger Cornell, he's 4-1. You can't help but imagine that maybe a little bit of luck, even though you have star receivers and Kelsey. I believe it's a 10-team league. You also have Smith, so maybe it's not luck. Second guessing myself. Just I saw the running backs and was like, holy crap. So the running backs are poo-poo, but you got an Eagle stack. You got Adams, Diggs, and Kelsey. So you're making the playoffs. You're making the playoffs, and you're probably going to make a deep run. Is there any notes here? Obviously, you want better running backs. But I mean, Jerome Ford, Javonte Williams, and Latavius Murray, like, when you have these players, you're good. What is there to do? The only thing you could do is trade Stephon Diggs. But if you're trading Stephon Diggs, believe me, you need the house. You need like Henry and Ramondre, or Montgomery and Ken Walker, right? Or Breece Hall and Rachaad White, right? Or Alexander Madison and Bijan, or Pollard and Madison, right? Or something like that. Or like Najee and Kamara, or Kamara and Brian Robinson. Like, don't trade away Diggs for scrubs. And I don't think anybody's going to do that deal because running backs are so valuable. So I really don't think there's much for you to do, because you could trade Adams and Diggs, but you won't get the value you want. You don't want to trade Smith because he's a part of your stack. And then on your bench, you got nobody. You got nobody that people want. No one wants Sky Moore. No one wants MVS. No one wants Latavius. No one wants Joshua Kelly. So you're kind of stuck with the team, but it's not bad by any means. Javonte Williams, he should be back maybe on Thursday. If not, he'll definitely be back next week. So you have a running back that you could start. Also, Jerome Ford and Latavius, you could plug and play them. They're pretty weak running back twos, but when you have the team that you have, you don't need a strong running back two by any means necessary. Play the waiver wire. Play the waiver wire so diligently, right? Pick up players that have upside value, right? Just backups with upside. Cam Akers, if he's out there, trade low for him. I'm blanking on running backs with upside. Give me a second here. Players all available on running backs like Samaje, Justice Hill, Tony Jones, this guy, Devin Singletary, Dalvin Cook, Zach Charbonnet is a huge one. Tank Bigsby, another big one, right? Or pick up these players with low like abilities right now, low capabilities points wise, but high upside, right? The handcuffs. Take those guys, because all you need is for one to hit. One of those players that I just mentioned to hit, and this team becomes unstoppable. But even if that doesn't pan out and you're stuck with Murray, Kelly, Williams, and Ford, you're going to be all right. Because this team right here, you're 4-1. You're guaranteed a playoff spot. And then when you have Kelsey, Adams, and Diggs, and a star stack at quarterback and flex, bro, this team should be walking into the championship game, and all you're hoping for is bad luck doesn't swing your way. Good job, Jagger. And good job, everybody that sent me. Everybody else that sent me your team. And, you know, I can't see it on desktop. If you're watching this video, go ahead and send me your team one picture at a time. That seems to be the problem. If not, I will try to get to your team in a TikTok video. And if not, I will try to do a second YouTube video, but I'll just transfer the teams onto like, and I'll download the picture so that way I can actually see them. That's going to do it for now, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, like I said, my TikTok, I post NFL Fantasy Madden content every single day of every single week. We're on the road to grow a following here. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you guys take the advice. Whether you go my way or not, like I said, I hope it helps you get to the decision that you wanted to get to. I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you guys so much. Peace.